Draft Sickos is live here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel. We are also on your podcast player of choice. I am Stephen Gillespie, and ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest lined up today. If you're watching live, you see him. If you're listening, allow me to introduce to you. He is an NBA draft consultant and contributor to the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. He is one of the best followers within the draft community that you can follow. Ladies and gentlemen, James Barlowe. James, how are we doing today, brother?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Man, it is my pleasure. So a lot of our loyal listeners will know that typically Maxwell and I will go live on Sunday evenings, but I reached out to you, James, because I've been a big fan of all the cool stuff that you've been doing this year. And I was telling myself, and I reached out to some other people too, I was like, man, it's going to be a shame if like before the draft, I don't get to do any sort of work with James, man. So I appreciate you coming on. I did this episode just for you, man. I'm just going to put it out to you like that.
Thanks, man. I feel the pressure now that I got to deliver. You went out of your way on a Friday night.
Yeah, man.
Through now.
Well, it's cool because I respect a lot of what y'all do over at Locked On, and I think the draft community is thriving this year. I think this is probably like the coolest year. Just I'm a fellow sicko too, just because I'm out here putting out podcasts. Like I'm a fan of everybody else, just like everybody else. So it's been awesome to kind of see your rise, man. So I'm going to ask you some questions. We do have a fun show lined up where James and I, we're going to talk about the big differences that we have on our big boards. And I asked James to come on here and maybe help me out a little bit on my perception of some of these players. But I want to get to know you a little bit. I want the audience maybe to get to know you a little bit if they don't already follow you. So James, you told me in our chats that you're still on your rookie contract is how you put it to me the other day. What's it been like being in the public's eye the way that you've been this year on your rookie deal?
This is year 2 of my rookie deal. I think I did a pretty good job my rookie year. I held it down for my brother while he was out. Got to have talks with him about extending my contract. I'm not trying to go out here like I'm pulling an Ace Bailey, man. I need to be in the forefront, man. I don't need to be behind some veterans. So, but it's interesting, man. Like hearing people say, I listen to your show or, I go to the combine and, somebody comes up to me and they're like, man, good job. I love what you guys do. And I'm like, huh? For real? Like, it's just
little old me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's talking to my brother. Like I've been doing this for a long time. So it's flattering. It's surreal. It's also a lot of fun. But I enjoy it, like if I have an opinion, I research it and I'm not afraid to, voice my opinion. Also, I'm not afraid to change my opinion either. So I enjoy covering the draft. Like I said, it doesn't feel like work to me, except for when we go live at like 1:00 in the morning. That's when it feels like work. But other than that, I'm enjoying it. I'm getting to do some traveling, getting to meet different people, just grow my knowledge of the game of basketball. So
you think about this comment, James make Raphael look old.
Man, I'm 5 years younger than him. I just, I got hair. He wears a hat.
There you go. Well, James, let me ask you this. This isn't on our outline, but I'm just curious. I'm going to fire this question off anyway. What's your background and history with basketball, man? Like, I'm assuming you grew up a junkie just like your brother, but like, what's your background within the game?
Obviously, well, I wouldn't say obviously, but I did grow up playing basketball. I played varsity. I scored my freshman year. I remember like it was yesterday. I shot a step back jumper going right. And but I played varsity for 3 years.
What position?
So I'm 40, right? And I'm a small guard, but my favorite player was Allen Iverson. So I was trying to get major buckets at 5'7". Okay. And then like one year there was like, nah, man, you gotta learn how to pass. So then I learned how to pass, and then I think I didn't figure out how to score and pass until like I ran out of high school eligibility. So I went to Iowa State and I played every single day on campus. Okay. And then, you go to college and you find out, oh, that guy's a walk-on there. I'm about to try to kill him because I think I'm better than him. He's just a walk-on. So that became that. We used to play against the redshirt freshman football players. Those were some battles trying to score on those DBs that their feet move. And then my senior year at Iowa State, I was on the women's scout team. So like that was definitely an interesting experience because, women's basketball while it is still basketball, it's just different. Like the physicality is different, the execution is different. But that was a ton of fun. And then, you know, graduated from college, moved down to Texas, played in men's leagues, played pickup, you know. 10 years ago, I wouldn't say 10 years, 5 years ago, you asked me to show up and play, I'd be there regardless.
Okay.
Now I try to get out there to, you know, try to keep my little dad good down. But I'm a big fan of the league, fan of the game, always around the game. I do skills training. I took it a little step back, but I have done skills training since 2014. So with my brother, we trained. We had Chris Douglas Roberts during his comeback.
Oh, okay. CDR, let's go.
Yeah, from Charlotte Bobcats. I've worked with Quincy Azee before. Quincy, I know he's got that highlight film of him dunking and screaming. Quincy's the nicest dude ever.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. A couple other NBA guys I've worked with. Donald Sloan. I can't name them all. Not to say that there's a lot, but I can't name them all. And then like just at the high school level, I found a couple guys here in the Metroplex that I've worked with. One kid, I met him, he was at 16. He was 5'10". I was like, yo, man, I know you're 5'10". He was always in the gym. I was like, you could play professional basketball. And, you know, start working with him, and he plays professional basketball 10 years later. So,
man,
I can, you know, I've anything with basketball besides like coaching, I've done it. So,
well, there you go. I mean, natural eye for talent is what it sounds like, and that's why you've been so successful, in my opinion. I'm not asking you to brag on yourself. I'll do it all for you. Successful, you know, second season, I'd say. But the podcasting had to be a different feel for you, right? Because I mean, it's different in a sense, just kind of talking shop, and then you get on, you got a show, and you got to kind of set things up and structure. How's that adjustment been for you, man?
Well, my situation is different in a sense because, like, essentially these are I'm 9 times out of 10 I'm on with my brother, and I talk to my brother 10 times a day, and it's like it's not different in the sense that I have to you know, change too much. I had to get used to like seeing myself on the screen and hearing my voice, because naturally, like, I'm a reserved person. And I wouldn't listen to like podcasts of me because I'm like, I don't sound like that. With it, I got used to like hearing myself. I guess this is what I really sound like. I don't know. Maybe my ears need to be cleaned out or something. But I want to say the biggest like adjustment has been like, I read the comments, right? And sometimes somebody call you an idiot in the comments. And
because the audience is smarter than you are.
Oh, for sure. And then like, I mean, God bless Twitter, but like, it's the people that know they don't have their face on there. They're always got something to say. But at the same time,
there's some very smart people out there too, though, right?
For sure. Yeah. And at the same time, it's like I can't reply to everybody. I mean, I got 2 brothers, right? So growing up in a family of 2 brothers, like, you can't joke on me because that's survival of the fittest. Yeah, I've been doing that forever. But you know, I read the comments, you know, sometimes it's just thumbs up. Sometimes you know, if I got time, I go back and forth. But I will say this, I haven't encountered a ton of disrespect on there, which is cool. And if somebody does disrespect, I might fire back at you, or I could just be like, hey man, if you're in Dallas, we can go play basketball if, you know, we want to make it about basketball. Okay. So
there you go. Yeah, I mean, that is a tricky part, because in a sense you go from being one of the people that make the comments and you listen to the things, and then you say, well, why would they say that? Why would they do that? How are these shows set up this way? But I've gained a lot more respect for some of the people who are, I would say, in the mainstream, even on TV, like Colin Cowherd. I disagree with a lot what he says, but that dude can host a 3-hour show essentially by himself. That's crazy.
That's a talent in itself. And like when my brother was out last year, man, I feel like I don't have bad podcasts, but like last year, maybe it's because it's my first time, I was like, man, that was crazy. Was I stuttering on there? But like, you know, those professionals, they do it in and out. And, you know, I just think that it comes down to, you know, some people in this space do it for attention, and then some people do it because they really enjoy it. And they believe what they say. And whether or not I agree with you or disagree with you, I will respect it. You know what I'm saying? Just because, like, we all have different opinions. I say this. when I go on other shows, I get introduced as a draft expert. I'm like, I'm not an expert. Like, I have an opinion. I don't think there
I
is
have
an
to say
expert.
expert, or no one's gonna, come on the show.
I mean,
no one's
that
gonna
may
listen.
be, but like, I don't think there's an expert because, if you'd have told me Markelle Fultz would be in and out of the league right now, I'd be like, man, you're right. Like that dude was special. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
No, you're 100% right. And I think that I don't know anybody in the draft community that would call themselves an expert, like how you just said. Like everyone will introduce their guest as an expert because they value what they bring to the table. You know what I mean? Like in this comments, I can see that James's landlord on Pecom Dadier Boulevard.
Shout out to my man Nick. I did a podcast with him last year. I sold him on Pecom Dadier as a Nick, and they went and drafted him. So I think
there
I'm
you
good.
go. Well, and that's partially why I wanted to bring you on too, James, is because we're going to be talking about our differences. But whenever I was thinking of a show idea to have you on, I was looking at your board and it's like, James and I actually agree on quite a few of these guys. So I think it would be better to, instead of just talk about how smart we are on the players,
Right.
let's talk about some of the differences. But before we do that, I got one more question for you. Do you have a plan or a goal in mind when it comes to basketball? Like, did you have any like grand idea, or are you just kind of taking advantage of, and not taking advantage, but like, are you just kind of enjoying the opportunities as they present themselves with what you're doing?
So I have this conversation with myself all the time. Like when my brother asked me to jump on, and he was like, man, do the podcast. At first it was just like, all right, cool. Let's just talk some basketball, see what happens. And then, as I do it and do it often, and I'm like, and I talked to my brother and, he says, hey man, like this agency basically was like, because you said this guy is showing these people this. And I'm like, oh, wow. Or like, hey man, I was at, where was I think it was McDonald's All-American game. He was like, whose agent that is? And I'm like, nah, because I don't, I'm on a rookie deal. I'm still learning. And he's like, man, that's so-and-so's agent there. Things like that. So now I'm like,
it happens to me still all the time. Like I would say, like, I don't have a big background in basketball. Like I got to be where I am just because I love the game and I'll grind and I'll work hard. Right. So I get whenever I'll talk to people, like I've had this happen several occasions where I'm with somebody and I'm talking to someone who's a big deal in the basketball world. And then I'm just talking to them like, a person, and then they'll walk away and they're like, you were just talking to da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, I did not. Nope.
Or
I had no idea.
We were at Basketball Without Borders this year in San Francisco, and I won't name the guy, but like the assistant GM of a team came up to me. He was like, hey man, here's my card. And I'm like, this is real? Like, I mean, I just, but so from, I guess to answer your question, like I'm open to wherever this takes me, so maybe it's podcast. I'm cool with podcasting, maybe it's working for a team, maybe it's working for an agency, like whatever happens, it happens. But I just know that, it's just like the athletes out there. You got to position yourself for, that opportunity to come. If I'm getting ready for the draft, or if I'm a high school player or whatever, I can't say I want to play at the next level and I'm, not doing anything. So constantly watching film, trying to learn different techniques, but at the same time, trust, my eye as far as like what I see and talent goes.
Yeah. And that's the interesting part about being in the draft community. I love the networking aspect, just getting to meet other people, right? But you want to value what other people say, but also try to find that balance of, I'm gonna trust on my own eyes. But I feel like when I quote unquote miss on a player, I like to go back and listen to kind of the older stuff that maybe I heard somebody else say, and then try to apply that to my future scouting, kind of like stand on the shoulders of giants in a sense like that.
Who's the guy you missed on and was like,
how much time you got? Man, now that I'm on the spot, I wasn't ready. I did not prepare for this question.
I flip it on you, man.
You flipped it. I mean,
I give you some time.
That's your host.
So, okay. I feel like I missed on, and me and my brother had the same conversation, but I missed and I didn't miss on Tyrese Halliburton. I thought Tyrese Halliburton was going to be a really good passer, really good playmaker. Knew he was going to make shots, but I didn't think he had enough off the dribble to be not just a starter, obviously, but like if you would have told me he'd be the engine of an NBA Finals team, Or even before that, like he was getting 30s against the Knicks. Like that was my biggest concern with him. And even still, there's still games where he has 12, you know?
Yep.
But like
passive. Yep.
Yeah, that was my question. And I mean the jump shot was it's ugly, but it didn't bother me. I'm not too I try not to criticize mechanics as much. Sometimes you can have like Ben McLemore had the prettiest jumper in the world, but the numbers didn't match what his jumper looked like. So I feel like
Shawn Marion could get buckets though.
Exactly. Shawn Marion shot that thing from his belly button and it went in. So but I feel like my biggest miss, but I feel like I evaluated him correctly. He just exceeded expectation, was like Tyrese Halliburton. I've been wrong flat out before, but
but I would say one popped into my head immediately, like as soon as you went on your Halliburton thing. Cassius Winston at Michigan State, the point guard. You remember him?
Yeah.
This was like my rookie year of scouting, but I was just like, this dude's a floor general. Like he sees the floor, he can get to the paint, he can shoot, he can handle, he plays really strong defense, even though he's really small. I was really high on the guy. I had him like in my top 20 in that year. And then I was just like, okay, like that. I understand now that like there are certain things like size, you got to be special if you're going to be this size to translate. And then one guy I was really low on was Franz Wagner.
I got Franz wrong too. He was the hardest. I was like, I don't know what he's good at.
Yep.
Like, I couldn't pinpoint it. And then he's out here like playing point forward. And I'll gladly say, and just in any, evaluation, like if I'm wrong, I'm like, hey, I got that one wrong. Like, my fault. So,
but I mean, I'll let people know that I had Tyrese Halliburton fourth on my board.
During that year. Talk to him, man. I hear you.
There you go. Right. All right. So, with that being said, we're going to transition now to the meat and the potatoes of this podcast. We're going to be talking about the players that James, you and I have big differences on. But first, we're going to take this quick break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back here with James Barlowe of the Locked On Sports Network. James, first player I got to talk to you about. This guy is so many people are rising him up their big boards, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to raise my hand too. Recently, I moved him up to my 18th spot on my big board. That being Noa Essengue, out of Ulm. He's forward, big man, kind of combination of both, maybe even a little bit of wing mixed in there. 6'10", about 204 pounds. One of the youngest prospects in this class at 18 years old. 7 foot and 3/4 inch wingspan. Splits of 50, 29, and 73. 12 points per game, 5 boards and assists. Almost 1.5 steals per game and a half block per game. I had him coming into the year as one of my top 10 players, but over time, I would watch film. I have questions on his feel, things like that. James, what am I missing on my man here? Why is he an NBA player?
So I first saw Noa Essengue. I went to Dubai last year, and he was playing out there, and which is funny because not totally off the subject, but Joan Behringer was out there, and if you'd have told me he was an NBA player, I'd have been like, maybe in 5 years. But so Essengue, he is just I can't ignore the production, and obviously you can't ignore the age, and he just has a knack for finding a way to get fouled. I saw him out in an Adidas tournament in Dubai, and I believe he had a 30-point night, and he had missed like 8 free throws. And now again, the shooting is obviously a major concern, but he plays the passing lanes, he plays hard. Again, he's always getting fouled, and then he just finds a way. Like you look up, and no matter, I know he's skinny, slighter frame, I need to put on some weight, but you look up, and it's like 13 and 8, or you know what I'm saying, and he's still figuring it out. Again, the jump shot he's still not a good shooter, but he's improved a lot, which says how bad of a shooter he was this time last year, but he's shooting them with confidence. And you see he's over a 70% free throw shooter. So there are some positive signs there. I can't get by the motor. You know what I'm saying? Like I just can't get past the motor. I know we had talked about in the rundown, like what's the difference between him and like
TJ Salon,
TJ
Usman
Salon.
Jang.
So T-John, when I was evaluating T-John last year, I mean he just shot threes and he's still kind of stiff. I know there's a video of him out there working out and he's like upright still.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be like an issue. And I question his feel for the game because he did a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, like if I were left-handed, I would play like that, but he's right-handed. So there's a lot of like left foot pivots, which to me kind of slows you down because that's not your lead foot. That's not your natural gathered foot. And then just like his feel for the game is still a work in progress. Sure. And that was on full display for like the Charlotte Hornets. While I do think Essengue does have some work to do, like as far as maturing, I just think that like his baseline is higher. And it's an example would be like, they played Portland in the preseason. Again, did Portland play their dudes the whole game? No, but he had a 20-point game, and he's scoring. He's effective, and it's like I believe he tried to take off and dunk on somebody, and there's just little stuff like that he does that I just can't, turn my head again, look away from. And then like in the comparison of like Usman Yang. So Usman, two things. Usman Yang plays for Oklahoma City. There's no developmental minutes for Oklahoma City, right? And but at the same time, I believe Usman Jang's last year in New Zealand, he had 38 half-court attempts. So he wants to shoot jumpers. He's 6'9", 16. He wants to shoot jumpers. This season alone, Essengue has at 112 half-court attempts. A lot of them are assisted. So he's going to get fouled. He's going to try to finish. I think that, and again, maybe it's the recency bias, but like if you look at his baseline, where he is now, then you look at what Pascal Siakam was, way back when he first started, he was an energy guy. Yep. Like I not saying that he's going to be Pascal, but I do think that he's going to be an energy guy who, in the right situation gets a chance to develop. So I'm still high on him. I think I've had him as the lowest I've had Essengue was like 13 or so. So I'm still here. But I got him at 9 right now, yes.
Got him at 9 right now. Okay. Yeah, so I struggled with him. Actually, I think starting I think the exact spot I had him was at 9, so that's funny. And you look at him, James, he's 91st percentile in transition, 86th percentile at the rim, and he was in the 75th percentile in at-rim frequency. The best shot type that he had is in terms of shooting was whenever he was guarded, where he just like barely over 30% from deep. And then you look at the defensive side, which James, I think that's kind of the strong point. If you're looking to project him with the energy, motor, and tools, that the defense is going to be there. And right now he is that young pup where he's playing with a lot of motor, energy, and hustle. He still has that refinement, but he had 84 stocks. That's, steals and blocks for those who don't know. So 84 stocks to 156 fouls generated. I'm kind of curious on how many teams do you think are willing to take on a player who needs like the level of refinement of a player like this? That's what I think kind of like the NBA as a whole is almost steering away from now, is like so many teams just want to, either your ceiling has to be so high that they can overlook the floor, or you have to come in with like a productive base skill. Like that's what I'm kind of worried about with Essengue.
So I think that even though he is extremely raw, I still think that production will be there depending on where he lands, right? Now, again, if you're, if the Rockets take him at 10, that you don't want to go to the Rockets because minutes are going to be hard to come by there. That's just, and that to me, excuse me, that's not just him. That could be, that could be Carter Bryant at 10. So, but if he lands in a spot like Toronto, while I do think I know Toronto does have their fair share of wings. He's a guy to me that he can get you. He's going to be energy minutes. He's going to play hard, and like from there it just goes. I know that like Jarris Walker, it hasn't worked out for him, but I also think that there are still, developmental minutes for a guy like Essengue because, even though he can't shoot, he's going to find a way to be productive. He can go be your role man. And one thing we know that he's going to do in that pick and roll as a short roll guy, he's going to try to finish.
Yep.
And he's not afraid of contact. He's got the toughness. He's going to try to finish. He's likely going to get fouled. You know, he's going to play the passing lanes. You can almost pencil him in for a gamble steal and a roll to draw contact and get fouled every game because that's just how he plays.
Okay, I like it. So if I'm hearing this right, he's a guy who's going to come in and be productive because of his motor, because of his tools.
Yes.
And a smart team is going to be able to build upon the athleticism, the length.
Yes.
And I mean, he's so young. Like,
and he's 18, yes.
Yeah, he's so young. I almost hate using like it for younger and older. Like I really try to just kind of almost throw at age, but I do know that it plays a part in like the developmental curve for players. You know, you're younger, you're going to be scrawnier. Like this will probably be the skinniest that he ever is, you know, as a basketball player. But it is hard for me to see the value in a way contractually when rookies, you know, if it takes them 2 years to get physically strong enough to get the lion's share of the minutes on a basketball court, that's half of a rookie deal. And then NBA teams are looking at the back end of a contract and weighing, do I pay this guy or do I not? So that's kind of like what I'm like wrestling with a little bit with him.
I understand that logic, but in a sense though, like his frame isn't any different than Zachary Risache's frame. And Zachary Risache carved out 24 minutes a game for himself. And I think that Essengue plays stronger than Risache. So it's like, and now again, granted, you know, Risache obviously the better shooter of the two, but Risache is a pure 3 to me, at least now. Whereas Essengue is probably a combo 3-4, and where he is in his development, he's more so a 4. But I don't necessarily think that it's going to be the muscle that is going to keep him off the floor. I think it's going to be the jump shot. But again, if you play him as an energy guy, a role guy, I think that there are minutes there, and then you just have to, you know, trust the intel that you have on him, which is he's going to work hard. And again, depending on the situation, I mean, like, you know, we don't know what's going to happen, but if guys are off the board and, you know, you're a team like Brooklyn and you have time, then why not take him? So
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially with the number of picks that they have. They can go with the upside guy early on, and then they can kind of get him some floor spacers around him to kind of make his runway a little bit larger, so to speak. So Regulator wants us to roll out here from the Noa Essengue conversation and talk about Maxime Raynaud, who is our next prospect that we were going to discuss. James, the big man out of Stanford, who barefoot is 7 feet and a quarter inch, 236 pounds, 22 years old with a 7 foot and a quarter inch wingspan, averaged the 2010 season this year with the Cardinals, just over 1.5 assists per game, almost 1.5 blocks, 1 steal, shooting splits of 47, 35, 77. James, I'm going to put it to you like this. I've watched Maxime Raynaud in person. I'm sure you probably have, or you have talked to people who have as well. I watched him play against Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech has a player on their team by the name of Ibrahim Souare, who is about 6'8", 6'9". They have him listed at about 220, 230 pounds. I'd say he's probably a little thinner than that. And I watched Souare just make Maxime's life a living heck on the court, man. Like, and that little brain splinter that I have, I mean, you can never weigh too much into one game, right? Like, you never should anyway. I see that, and then I watch film and I see that he is offensively gifted, but I worry about the ability to string a play along, so to speak, with like his the level of passing that he can have. And then I worry about the defense and I hear people say this all the time. Big men are asked to do so much in today's NBA. I think he can do a couple of things, but I worry about some of the more important things translating to the NBA. Where do you have Maxime? I guess is where I want to lead off.
I have him at 18. I think depending on what the Wizards do, if I were the Wizards, I really like Queen at 6.
My brother tuning in. That's proof of what you said earlier. I mean, if people want to hate on you, your brothers are going to do it first.
Man, dude there. Shout out to Black Jesus and all the Jesuses. Jesus. But I want the Wizards to take Queen. If they don't take Queen, I still think they do need another big. I think Raynaud, while I think he has some concerns on the defensive end, but I do think he has the athleticism and the foot speed to be able to overcome the numbers. But I also will say I did get to watch Stanford play. They play SMU here, and like that team wasn't talented. And I think that it came down to they lost to Louisville on a buzzer beater in the ACC tournament. And
don't make me lie on my podcast, man. I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they did, yeah, because they lost to a kid. Yeah. They lost to Louisville on the buzzer beater. They win that game, they maybe have a chance to sneak into the tournament. But I see Raynaud, 7-footer, and the average stretch 7-footer in today's NBA is not a great athlete or even a good athlete, minus like Miles. And I guess depending on who you ask or when Chet is shooting, like, Chet's shooting like trash right now. But the other guys, though, the rotation guys aren't usually like athletic, guys that can shoot. I think he's a very good athlete, and I do buy the shooting ability. The playmaking, again, is different than the ACC on a team that wasn't that good, excuse me. I don't want anybody from Stanford coming for me. And like,
compared to the rest of the gen pop out there, right? Like they are good basketball players.
Like he is the best player on that team by far. So like the point guard play was spotty, right? So when I did watch SMU play against him, play them, like he catches the ball and it's all eyes are on him. That's not going to be his role in the NBA. If you're asking him to pick and pop, then he can do that. Good pump fake. He can put the ball on the ground. And then I do think if, teams want to switch, he has enough offensive game to beat the switch. The defensive concerns I get are legit. I do think that they are valid, which is why I have him, towards the, middle of the first round.
Respectable range.
Respectable range. But again, it's what I do like about him, and what I did get to see at the combine is that, maybe it was the situation. He's at the combine. Everybody's there. It's the biggest job interview there. But he was by far the loudest person in the gym. He's calling out every switch. He's talking on defense. They got rap music playing. This Boss Man D-Lo playing in the background. And you can hear Maxime Raynaud just loud on defense. And again, that can make up for a little bit of, defensive concerns, that he's going to be vocal out there and that he's at least trying to address those allegations that he's not a good defender. He's going to have to be a respectable defender, but ultimately, like, his offense is going to have to carry him. And then, last thing about Raynaud, like, it's situational, but like Quentin Post was getting playoff minutes,
I'm glad you brought him up. So I was going to mention him if you didn't.
Go ahead.
I've seen the Raynaud and Quentin Post conversation come up. I think my guy Quentin Post is getting a little bit of like revisionist history almost, to where it's like, I think people forget how nimble he was with a ball in his hand at Boston College. And I think that that's the separator between the two. I think that Quentin could actually boogie with the ball in his hand, and his playmaking, I think, it was more advanced. And that Boston College team like had some players, but they weren't necessarily stacked either. I think that that's like the separator between those two, between Quentin Post and Maxime Raynaud.
Yeah, but whether it's the separator or not, like Quentin Post went from, was he even drafted? I don't think he was drafted.
He was. I think he was like 55th or 56th to Golden, or it wasn't Golden State. He got traded around a little bit, but yeah, like very, very late second.
A 7-footer that could make shots found himself playing rotation minutes for a team with championship aspirations. I feel like if you're a middle of the lottery, not middle of the first round team, like, you can use a Maxime right now.
So you said the Warriors would be kind of like an ideal
Wizards.
situation.
I like him in Washington too. You can go twin 7-footers. I mean, who knows what Minnesota?
They're all French, Yeah,
both French. But Maxime is he's a tough dude, and you get the playmakers. Like, if they do end up keeping Poole, that would work out for him. Like, I just don't feel like Raynaud has played with playmakers to show his complete like game yet. And again, that's no disrespect to the Stanford guards, but like college basketball in the NBA are obviously totally different, but especially at the point guard position. Like, if you don't have a point guard, then what are you going to do? And then, I've heard the interview with my brother. Shout out to my brothers in the chat. He said the
He's
defensive
live, man.
scheme,
Yep.
the defensive scheme at Stanford wasn't to protect the rim. It was to protect the glass. So we'll see how it works out for him.
I mean, he did that. I mean, like I said, almost 11 rebounds per game. And that's, I mean, if you want to talk about like translatable things, rebounding is typically one of those things, like for any position, let alone a big man. But like almost every point guard in the NBA had good rebounding numbers for a point guard in college. But Maxime cleans up the glass. He had 20 dunks in the half court, even though he was only in the 26th percentile at rim frequency, which is really low. So he made the most of his time in the paint when he was there. And he was in the 78th percentile on post-ups. I see a little bit of the vision. I know that your brother's in here, and I know he's watching.
Yeah,
I know he said he's got him lottery.
Yeah,
I can't get that high
I'm
on him.
not there with him either.
Right, but I do see that he has some utility. I think he said only 2 lobs all season. Man, your brother's in here. He's producing. He's producing.
Man, right. Hey, and look, I didn't even tell him to come in here. So that's just out on his own merit.
There we go. All right, so James, we're next up on the list is a player that recently I had him 25th or 24th on my big board. For about a week he lived there, and now I got him back down in the second round after doing more film, more diving in, kind of intel gathering. Nothing bad on the intel front, by the way, just accumulation of all these things. But Drake Powell out of UNC, kind of a wing forward. He measured barefoot, 6'5.25" 200 pounds, 19 years old, with a 7-foot wingspan, 7 points, 3 boards, 1 assist, almost 1 block and 1 steal per game, shooting splits of 48, 38, and 65. James, I want to ask you, man, like, first off, what do you think of UNC as a college program over the past few years?
Not the UNC that I grew up watching, man. Ed Cota, it's not the Ed Cota UNC. It's not Joe Forte UNC. It's definitely not Rasheed and Vince Carter. So I don't know what's going on. And I'm sure, clearly it didn't work out for Drake Powell because he probably could have made a bunch of money going back to UNC. He decided, he's like, nah, I'm good. I'll take my 8 and 5 splits and try my hand at the NBA. But before I get into Drake Powell, I got to tell you again, where do you have Carter Bryant?
Where do I have Carter Bryant? I have him 7th on my board.
All right. What's the biggest difference between Carter Bryant and Drake Powell?
I will say right now, I think physically there's a big difference between the two where Carter's bigger, like in terms of like size and stature between the two of them. I think that although the 3-point percentage between the two is close, I think the shot projectability with Carter is a lot different. I think that he plays defense in a more, I would say, versatile way to where I could see him defending more positions than I could Drake Powell. But I think defensively is like where they're the closest. Offensively, I see Carter being able to be utilized more on the offensive end, whereas Drake Powell, I think, is going to be strictly a play finishing type guy between the two of them.
All right, so this is probably our biggest gap.
I'm here for it.
All right, and if Carter Bryant's people are watching this, I don't mean any disrespect.
This is just healthy conversation.
Just healthy conversation.
Let's go.
But there's less than a 1% true shooting. There's a 1% difference in true shooting between the two of them. There's a 0.5 difference in stocks. Both of them are sub 70% free throw shooters as last year. Carter Bryant, I believe, shot sub 30% from 3 in high school. If you go back to their EYBL days, Carter Bryant shot 33%. Drake Powell shot 32% on jump shots. Catch and shoot numbers in college, Carter Bryant shot 36%. Drake Powell is almost at 40%. Catch and shoot numbers from the EYBL favorite Carter Bryant over Drake Powell. And unguarded, Carter Bryant was at 46% versus 34%. And then unguarded in the EYBL, he only had 12 attempts somehow, and he shot blistering 58%. I don't think that there's a huge difference between the two, especially, again, if we're talking about like stature, he's bigger, which I think will allow Carter Bryant to probably defend fours better than Drake Powell.
Right.
But I don't think that he has the mentality to defend ones. I do think Drake Powell can do that. I ran the film back. Oh, real quick, one more stat.
Yeah.
Pick and roll ball handler. Carter Bryant, opponent shot 44% against him in pick and roll. And Drake Powell, they shot 32%. And in the film, you go back, Drake Powell is into guys.
Yes.
Like he's in there. He uses his athleticism. There's multiple efforts. He tries not to get screened. And then you mentioned, and it's not no attack on you, but you mentioned
no, go ahead.
The you couldn't get the Raynaud got locked up by Georgia.
Yeah,
Tech.
the brain splinter. Yeah.
Brain. I got a brain splinter with Carter Bryant because I saw Cooper Flagg give him work. And again, Cooper Flagg, #1 pick. There's no shame in it, but like it wasn't even a fight. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I think he had 8 points on him in the first half. Then the second half, he tried to pick up Cooper Flagg full court. And I believe it led to like 3 assists. There were poor closeouts. I just feel like Drake Powell, while he doesn't have the muscles, again, he still has great wingspan, the highest vertical jump, I feel like he's going to be a more tenacious defender. And again, in the eyes of the beholder, what's more valuable, defending Carter Bryant 2 through 4 versus Drake Powell defending 1 through 3? Again, that depends on who we are playing against that night. So that's not necessarily a lean towards either guy. I just feel like Carter Bryant, on top of 82% of his shots being assisted, I just think he might be an in theory guy, at least for me, as far as like where I see people like projecting him to be. And like he just lacks aggression. And again, if I'm taking him in the top 10, I know he does project to be a role player, but ultimately in my mind, I want him to return OG Anunoby type talent in the sense that, yes, you are a tenacious defender, but you can average 15 to 18 and have just enough offense. And he, to me, just hasn't shown that he has enough offense to say, you know what, he might turn into something else besides what I call corner boys. You stand in the corner and you defend, or you cut and you get dunks. Those things are great. At the same time, I feel like the EYBL tape shows a more creative score. Not to say that's going to be his role, but
sure,
a more creative score in a Drake Powell than a Carter Bryant. So like I do have Carter Bryant higher, but like it's like 4 or 5 spots between the two. And if I decide, I'm just so much going on. I may not make another mock. Somebody just burned over in residential neighborhood. But where if I feel like doing it, the gap between them won't be 4 or 5 spots. I'm just a little lower on Carter Bryant. I think, again, maybe it's because Patrick Williams turned out to be an in theory guy. Maybe Carter Bryant is another in theory guy. So that's just my personal opinion. Again, hope he makes all the money in the world to the Carter Bryant family, the Arizona Wildcat alum. I'm not as so that's where I am on Drake Powell.
I think that's fair. I want to ask you a question. Who do you think got more consistent opportunities on their team between Drake Powell and Carter Bryant?
Definitely Drake Powell. That UNC team was terrible. And he had to go out there and play the 4 because they were playing what's my man light skin dude? He was playing at 3 at 6'4". They was playing RJ Davis at the 2. And then you had
Ian Jackson was
just transferred. There. Yeah, he was playing. They were a small team. I think Drake Powell's naturally 3. He had to play the 4. Yep. And I just think that he got boxed into a role, whereas I think Carter Bryant, like that's who he is. I think he had one game where he took more than 10 shots.
Yeah,
it was like the Duke game, and that wasn't. I came out, and it's not fair to pin it on that one game. I know he played extremely well against.
It's hard. It's hard when you see those, though. It's hard to get rid of those.
Right, and I know he played extremely. They did play Texas. He played extremely well against Texas. Right, very good job on Trey Johnson. But I felt like, and we, on our podcast, we talked about it. I was like, this is a big opportunity. You play in Duke. I don't expect you to lock up, Cooper Flagg, but like make it tough. And he just did not make it tough. And I just can't get that out of my head. So
no, I think that's fair, man. I think the opportunity though is really what is the separator in terms of like what we've seen from Carter, in my opinion, for whatever reason, the fewer minutes that he got than what he should have got. Compared to Drake Powell was on the floor all the time, but man, like I hate to make everything about numbers because I really don't. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love film too, but like to contextualize what I see on the film, I think numbers can be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
His usage of 13.3 is like anemically low, Drake Powell.
And that is why I'm like, see, if I were basing it strictly on the North Carolina film, like I get it, right?
Yeah.
But again, when you watch his high school tape, you watch his EYBL tape, he was a totally different player. Like he was
I
putting
had
the
him
ball on
so
the
high
ground.
on my board
Exactly.
coming
I
into
had
the
him at
year.
top 10. And
Yeah.
then for whatever reason, like they just turned him into, whatever he was at North Carolina. So I'm gonna trust my gut and say he has more game
Yep.
than what I saw at Carolina, and that Carolina situation was terrible. I mean, like it is what it is.
It has been for a while too,
Yeah.
man. Like
So,
UNC
hey,
is a
man,
tough watch.
I hope it works out for my man. What's the youngster they got there going the top projected for our bad with names, man? Caleb Wilson. Hope it works out for Caleb Wilson.
Yep. Me too, man. But I think that for Carter, I love this stuff too, but like he had to, claw, bite, scratch to like get the minutes that he got. And it's undeniable how much better on the defensive end in particular, but even on the offensive end, how much better Arizona was when he was on the floor than when he wasn't. And I think it matters, right? Like high school film matters. You can't learn everything about a player in one season, right? Especially as young as they are. But I do think that like negative developmental context can impact the trajectory of a player. It's like a Drake Powell, like even as good as they were in high school. So that weighs on me a little bit. And then I see Carter just like overcoming the weird coaching rotations that Arizona had going on with him. And he eventually was so good that he was just undeniable and had to get a more consistent role within the team. I just like the size, the feel, I think is there with him too. And I think just like we were talking about Essengue in his age, Carter, he's young as well. I think that the trajectory is pointing in the right direction for him, and him being as big as he is, like it's just so hard to get a guy that big who can project to do the things that he does, which I think is a little bit more valuable. And I like Drake Powell. Like I've wrestled with him all year. I probably flip-flop with him some of the most than anybody on my board. The trajectory that Carter is on is what makes him special to me.
Respect.
Right on. All right. So we just talked about Drake Powell. We talked about Maxime Raynaud, and then we are going to move on. I cannot wait to talk to you about this guy because this is the guy that I'm probably the least confident on my scout about. We're going to have to talk about Hansen Yang here in a second, but first we're going to take a short break. All right, so we're back here with James Barlowe of the Locked On Sports Network. I am so pumped to talk to you about this guy because his scouting context is just so unique, and I want to have like a philosophical discussion about scouting a player in a unique kind of context like Hansen Yang was. But first, we'll talk about Hansen. Hansen Yang out of. Help me out with the name. I'm sure you got the lowdown on how to pronounce it. Is it Qingdao? Did I got that right?
I think it's Qingdao. Yeah, I tweet in Chinese, but I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I go on Google Translate, man.
Okay.
Reach out to my Chinese people, but I think it's.
Here I was thinking you were fluent, man.
Nah, I got a ways to go, man. Yeah, I'm not quite my man in Rush Hour 2, who was fluent. But, we'll see if I get there. So.
We might end the show just talking about the Rush Hour.
Man, that's trilogy. My favorite franchise right there. I can turn on Rush Hour right now and laugh like it's the first time I see it.
I was waiting for you in the back. You weren't in the back.
I say stuff to my daughter, and it'll be a quote from Rush Hour, and she's like, "What are you talking about?"
Push the button. Yep.
I'm like, "Give about 3 more years and we can watch it." So.
There you go. All right, so Hansen Yang out of Qingdao, the big man, 7'1", barefoot, 252 pounds, 19 years old, 7'2", 3/4-inch wingspan. In the CBA, he averaged almost 17 points, almost 11 boards, 3 assists, over 2.5 blocks, 1 steal, shooting splits of 58, 33, 67, 3 turnovers per game, and over 3 fouls per game. James, let's actually start with like some philosophical stuff. I'm a philosophizer right now. So his conference, or his league, I should say, is just hard, man. Like, and when it comes to scouting players in unorthodox leagues, like I'll put out a CBA, I'll put out like an NBL because the style of play is just so different than what we see in the NBA. And I'll even throw out like the overtime elite with what we saw with the Thompson twins and the scrutiny that league got with having these just like superb athletes playing a style of play that just didn't seem translatable to the NBA at all. When you look at a player who is in an unorthodox league like this, are you looking specifically at production or are you looking at like more trait-based scouting?
100% trait-based.
Okay.
Production is like, it's what I expect to see. And even to like cut my man Hansen some credit, like he popped on my radar under 19s.
Okay.
Playing for China. And I saw him play France, and France has got some dudes. And Alex R couldn't guard him. And again, Alex R is a smaller, individual, skinnier individual, but he couldn't guard him. And the difference between the Chinese basketball, they get a couple guys. They don't have the the talent that we have here or France or
it's not like Hugo Gonzalez playing on Real Madrid,
exactly.
right?
And really, like the huge difference in the talent is the point guard play. They just haven't had a guy that's been able to crack through. But Team USA, when they play China, like he scores. He's extremely skilled on the block. So like him doing that in the CBA is what I expect. Now, the good thing I feel like about the CBA, at least for him, is that like he got high usage. We're not projecting in some like Hugo Gonzalez, a perfect example. Like I don't know what Hugo Gonzalez can do because he doesn't play.
Yeah,
you got to dig back 2-3 years to find him to play 24 minutes, and that's not even a lot. Whereas Hansen, they're playing him. He's like the second leading scorer on his team. But like the skill, he's very talented on the block. And even in a different situation, they came over last summer in the summer league, and he had flashes where it was like if you give him 2 back down dribbles, he's likely going to score the basketball. And while the CBA isn't the most talented league, there are former NBA players there. So like he's trying to cave Marquise Chris's chest in the post up. He's playing drop coverage against former NBA players. Like Kay Felder is over there. So like he does see some talent over there. I guess the biggest difference, well, I guess I can say this. I am a believer because I'm buying his skill set as far as just like his post scoring. I know that the NBA isn't, what it was 30 years ago.
That was going to be my follow-up question with the post scoring.
It's not that. Yep. But what I do feel like does work is that he's a gifted, I wouldn't say gifted. He shows flashes of being a very good passer and playmaker at the high post. And I also feel like guys help him out like Ivica Zubac, who, you compare him with a dynamic point guard, James Harden, one of the best passers probably ever. If we, that's another podcast. Like as a role man, the Clippers traded away Paul George and got better, and like Zubac was a direct beneficiary of that because there were more pick and roll opportunities for him playing with a great playmaker.
Yep.
And he bought, obviously Zubac cleans the glass, and he turned into a really good passer in the short roll. Whereas I think Hansen is like could be more than a short roll passer, more like not necessarily a hub, but he can do some things out of dribble handoff. I know you saw the pass he had at the combine where he spun that ball down the middle.
Oh, bro. Yes.
The whole gym was like, oh, like that. That is the reaction from the gym. And then this is not fans. This is like NBA. Like the reaction from that pass may as well have been a poster dunk. Like it was, he's shooting the ball better. I'm buying his talent. I feel like if I'm the Brooklyn Nets with all those picks, you have to lead with Hansen Yang. And I will say, I think the biggest, as much of a fan of him as I am, the best thing that I saw from him was day 1, he was not good. Day 2 at the combine, he was good. He was moving his feet. And shout out to Vlad Golden, but he made Vlad Golden's life extremely tough.
Yep.
Again, if you question his mobility, he had to go guard Grant Nelson. Grant Nelson is a hybrid big. He's going to put the ball on the ground. He kept Grant Nelson in front of him a couple times. He closed out on Micah Peavy, who most of us think is going to get drafted. He blocked his shot off the glass. And while he doesn't speak a lot of English, he's going to go out there and try to, communicate. And from
he also blocked a Sion James 3 too, if I remember.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's like, if my questions were, will he be able to keep up? I do think he might need to lose a little bit of weight because it's not as physical. Yeah. The post play is physical in China.
Yes.
And, he got 3, 4, 5 dribbles. You're not going to get that in the NBA unless you're Jokic, right? So he's not going to get that. So he might need to slim down just to keep up with the pace. But I tell you what, if there's an opportunity for him to score on the box, I think he's going to score or make a play. Now, he does turn the ball over a lot. But again, he's 19. He shows the flashes that, he may be able to make some plays. So I really, really like him. I think he made himself I think he turned himself. He's a big question mark. Like I said, everybody has questions about the CBA.
Sure.
But I feel like that second day of the combine, he proved that he can keep up. And that was on, probably jet lag, there's a time difference. So I think he's going to be fine. Everything that I hear is that he's crushing workouts. People love him. My brother tweeted out some film. He worked out for the Timberwolves, and I think he caught Sion James on a switch. And Sion James hates football player, and he was moving him like a little kid. So I'm a big Hansen Yang fan. I think he's going to be fine. Like I said, if I'm Brooklyn, if he's there at 25, I'll take him. I don't even know. Maybe the word is the Hawks need a 7-footer. I don't think he fits their timeline because he probably still needs some time.
Yeah,
and they got trained. You probably got to try to win now, but he's an NBA player for sure.
Yeah, I have him, I think 34th on my board. So, and he's a guy that I've steadily the combine was a wake up call just because I finally got to see him recently.
That's a big test for him. Yes,
it was a huge test for him, and it was against his peers. And it's not the biggest or the best centers in the draft class competing in the combine this year. I mean, Maxime cashed in on his one matchup.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Michael Ruzic and all them, right? So Hansen did a really good job. And I got to interview Elijah Martin a little while ago, and he was on Yang's team, and I asked him about them, and he had nothing but positive things to say about Yang and his vision. He spoke glowingly of his ability to make for his position as well.
And I will say this before you carry on, I don't think Elijah Martin's a natural point guard. And that team that they had in pair, they didn't have a point guard. So it was at one point, it was they had to lift Hansen from the box to the high post and let him try to,
find cutters
offense because they couldn't get him the ball in the post. And it's I feel like we didn't even get to see the best of him, and we'll see this. We will see in this summer league. Hopefully, he gets paired with a nice, not even a pass first guy. Somebody can just make a post entry.
Someone who can make it
see both shoulders. He's got counters. Keeps the ball high, extended. He might do the head tap if he dunks. So I really like Hansen Yang's game.
Yeah, that's the thing is I'm not going to counter back with you on a lot of Hansen because if you look at the film, you look at the numbers, you talk to people who've been around him, it's just hard. I would have liked to have seen him against better competition in the combine a little bit.
Man, but listen, hey,
he did what he did.
Hey, tell Rocco Zakarski to play.
Yeah,
he didn't play.
A lot of people didn't play.
Maxime did the right thing, but you got to play who you in front of. And it's we can sit here and say, the CBA is this, the CBA is that. And Vlad Golden is what? All Big Ten?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he made Vlad Golden's life tough. Vlad is a huge guy.
That's a big boy.
He was trying to bully that man.
You're right.
Yeah, so he could play.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So last guy that we're going to talk about today is a player that I'm probably the most out on a player in this class with Will Riley, out of Illinois, the kind of wing forward, 6'8" 1/4", 185 pounds, 19 years old for draft night, 6'8" 3/4" wingspan, 11 points per game, 3 boards, a little over 1 assist, 0.3 blocks, half a steal per game, shooting splits of 47. I think I have the 3-point percentage wrong because I have it as 43.5.
No, he
That's
definitely
not
didn't
right.
shoot 43%.
Yeah, I think I got the 3 and the 4 backwards. I think it's 34.5 if I'm not mistaken. But so let's just talk about Will Riley. I worry about him, James, because one, the physicality level. Like
Yes.
I know in college, like he was actually good at the rim finishing. He was in the 66th percentile at the rim. Really good, like handles contact well at the college level. I worry about that at the NBA level. Where do you have him on your board first off? Because I have him 40th on mine.
I have him 28, I believe. But again, I flip it on you. Where do you have Liam McNeely at?
I have him 28.
See, we're the opposite on the two of those. So like,
where do you got? Well, where you got Liam?
I got Liam at 34.
I don't hate it, to be honest with you. That's a wide range of players for me, like at the end of the first and like midway through the second.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned. Like the difference between 24 and 44 could be who you like.
Paper thin.
Yeah.
It's this thin, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I got Will at 20. I think he's a better. I think he's a scorer. I'm saying this like I have him as a late first because I do think that he was better as a playmaker off a pick and roll than I thought he was going to be. My first initial reaction to him was, oh man, that's Canadian J.R. Smith out there. Like he's not passing anybody. He just shoot, and he can shoot. I think he's more of a scorer than a shooter.
Sure.
That makes sense. But the playmaking is a positive sign. And while he is rail thin, I know he did put on a lot of weight, which is crazy. He's still like 185. He still needs probably another 15. I just talked to, I did a podcast with some Toronto folks, and they said that he's I can't even compute that because I just eat like a regular person, but he's trying to eat some like massive number of calories every day to gain weight. But I just think he's a scorer, and he might be a guy, a rotation guy that can get hot for you, but also can make some plays. And that's why I have him there versus a Liam, who I know he's going to compete. Him shooting badly is very disappointing because he had the reputation of being a shooter. And, I know, the whispers with Liam, and not to make this the Liam segment, but like the whispers.
We can talk Liam.
He was playing a role that he wouldn't play in the NBA, but like, if you watch those plays, like Connecticut ran action for him to get jumpers. It wasn't like they asked him to play point guard. They didn't ask him to do anything that he couldn't do. And it's like, if he would have shot better in that role, I would have him a lot higher. He just, he didn't shoot the ball well. And I do have my concerns about him on the defense. But I just think Will is going to be like a microwave guy. He can get hot. And, we saw it early on in the season. He had started off blazing hot. He cooled off some, then it kind of picked back up a little bit in like January, February. Consistency isn't, all these guys have consistency issues. But again, from what I hear, talking to my brother, they say he's playing extremely well in workouts. And again, workouts are, one part of it. But like people are wowed by his scoring ability. I guess he didn't get to show you everything, or maybe he's improved since, being at Illinois. But like you said, or like we said, man, 25 to 35 to 45 could be like, it's
razor thin margins.
Yeah, eye of the beholder.
Yeah, and Dirty Dancer, who is like all over any NBA podcast that you could ever listen to.
Shout out to Dirty Dancer.
Shout out to Dirty Dancer, most goated listener in the draft community. All of our listeners are goats, but we got to shout out Dirty Dancer. Come on. But he says big wings who are willing to chuck will always be higher on my boards.
There's always it's not the same. And there's he was drafted a lot higher, but like Ben Mathurin won the Pacers a game, just a guy that's going to get hot, going to make shots. Not to say they're the same type of player, but it's really the same mindset. Like if I got it, it's going up. So that's why I'm a little higher on him than like a Liam. And then some of the older, I like some of the older 5th year, 4-year, wings in this draft. But I feel like, Will is in a spot where he is, to me, more of a scorer than a shooter, but he could be a guy that averages 13 one year for a team in a row because he's just a scorer. Obviously, has put on some weight, but I can't wait from this season. Wish he shot the ball better, but I was really impressed with his ability to put the ball on the ground and make some passes. I did not see that coming from him going into Illinois.
Yeah, and the thing that I've struggled with is I think that Illinois was actually constructed very well for him to do very well, and that's where I kind of like.
I feel the same way about Yakashonis though too.
Well, I kind of like Yakashonis a lot, but I say a lot. I have him 15th on my board, so
not
as much as some other people.
11 or 12. Yeah,
I'm kind of lower on all the organizers outside of Dylan Harper, to be honest with you. Like I have KJ at like 15. I think I got Fears at like 17 or 18, and then I got Demin at like 20.
Where Fears is the difference between us two. I'm low. I got Demin at 19. Yakashonis I think at like 11 or 12, but I don't think he's like your lead point guard. I just really like what Fears does. Like,
well, let's talk Fears. This is off script a little bit, but
right.
I mean, if you got time, we can.
I got time now.
All right.
The Las Vegas Aces game doesn't come on for another hour or so. So
okay,
but no, I like Fears, man. I know the
help me out.
Numbers weren't the best. I know the jump shot wasn't the best. But again, if you look at his jump shot, it looks fine. He shot 85%. And I just feel like it says a lot about a kid that should have been in high school who leads a team that was picked like 15th in this conference to the tournament. And if we talk about all of these guys, right? Cooper Flag, VJ Edgecombe, and again, whatever. But like, who besides Flag and maybe some of those Ace games, if you like, depending on how you feel about Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper.
Got him 6 on my board.
6?
Yeah.
Respectable, right?
Okay.
But whose highs, like their wow moments, are higher than Jeremiah Fears's, So like the Arizona game.
Yeah.
Right? In the Bahamas. He obliterates Arizona. He had like 30. Then he followed it up. They played Michigan, who's going to have 2 guys probably get drafted. At least one. We know Danny Wolf is going to get drafted.
For sure.
Probably first round pick. He is attacking Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. He beats them on a buzzer beater. There's a game they need against Mississippi State because it was looking real bad for him. He dominates that. They didn't beat Kentucky those 2 games, but like Kentucky featured, I forget the other guy's name, but Otega Owe and the other guy,
Lamont Butler.
Yes, they can't guard him at all.
And those are defensive guys.
And those are defensive guys, and he's 18. And then if you look at like the numbers, I'm a Fears guy through and through.
Okay.
Right? I tweeted out that he would be where he is in this draft cycle in December. So like there's 100% bias there. But like if you watch that Connecticut game, right? I think he shot the ball like 5 of 14. He missed a dunk.
Yep.
I mean, if we're going to replay VJ Edgecombe's missed dunks, let's replay his too. Right? Shout out to VJ Edgecombe. I don't want to see anybody replay him dunking on Mark Few's son. Like that dude is like, come on now, man. Like that's a
very good basketball player. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's come on, man. That's a future coach. Yeah. So, but I feel like Fears is just you can't keep him out the paint. I think the decision making, the turnovers are high, but the decision making isn't bad. Like he hits roll guys, and you look at his situation, like Jalen Miller, I think his name. Jalen Moore has a chance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He has a chance as a two-way guy, right? Yeah. But other than that, like nobody on that team is going to play in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So it's like he led that team. They gave him the keys to that team. I've heard guys say like, "Yo, he was our best player," and like he's 18, and I feel like the jumper can get better. And he might be a guy that's not even done growing, to be honest with you, because like he looked like a little kid last year.
He is, yeah.
He doesn't need a screen. Speed is there. I'm a big buyer of like, and I'm not even an intangibles guy, but like I'm a big buyer of his intangibles.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because I think that this would help kind of contextualize like his pathway to success in the NBA. So I don't know how you felt about Scoot Henderson coming through. I was really high on him. I liked him a lot. A lot of people said that Scoot Henderson was one of the best point guards that they've ever scouted, like, or at least in, decades, right? And that's saying a lot. Scoot Henderson gets drafted third, like, kind of surprising. Brandon Miller leaps him to some people. Some people saw it coming.
My brother saw it coming. Shout out to my brother if he's still
shout out to the brother. So Brandon Miller leaves him. Scoot goes to Portland, and it hasn't been the type of start to his career that a lot of people have anticipated. I would say that Scoot was more physically ready to handle the NBA than a guy like Jeremiah Fears. How does Fears acclimate to the NBA then? Like, why would a team want to take him high when a guy like Scoot Henderson has struggled?
Well, the difference between them, I think Fears is more skilled than Scoot. I think a lot of Scoot's appeal was physical. And I'm like, I get it, but like muscles don't make you shoot the ball better. And that's what, Scoot just struggled shooting the ball. And Fears, again, needs to shoot the ball better. Yep. But like, it felt like Scoot rode that wave against the game against Wemby. And then it was just kind of like, what were his moments? When did he fight adversity throughout that season?
Another weird context league with the Ignite, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Whereas Fears, like they were 14-0, Oklahoma was. Then they cooled off a lot. They struggled. And like he fought adversity along with the team. Shout out to the rest of those guys to like make it to the tournament. Like they had to crawl to get back in. So it's like I can understand it, but I think that they're different players in the sense that I feel like Fears' feel for the game is a little bit higher than Scoot's. But at the same time, Scoot had moments, he did turn it around for a stretch, and then he got hurt. So I mean, the jury's not. It's not he's not a bust by any means.
No. He's still got a long way there. He can be the guy that everyone thought he was going to be.
Scoot, and also, that game against whatever the number they are, that French team that Wemby played for.
the 90 Mets 92, I think.
92, right? 93, one of those. Like that was the best and the worst thing that happened for him because he didn't have to, he felt like he was done. He didn't have to prove himself after that. And like you didn't get to see him bounce back because for two reasons, the G League games weren't on TV unless you're like us who are going out of your way to watch them.
Yeah.
So it was like, whereas, Oklahoma, like they had to crawl back. So that's why I'm higher. And at the same time, like as a scout, I'm trying to get out of, and it's hard because we talked about it, like holding somebody else's lack of success or delayed success against a totally different, prospect. So
I think that that's fair. And there's some people who can buy in on these guards that are the sub 6'4". The shooting percentages are concerning, but there's a lot there to like. I mean, he's probably not the most vertical athlete either, I would say, Fears, but he is definitely athletic in the sense that he plays with bend. He's very shifty, very quick. He gets to his spots with relative ease, and very high usage guy too. At a very young age. Yeah.
And that, I mean, some people say, well, what does he look like in a lower usage role? But I'm like, if he doesn't have a high usage, he's still at Oklahoma or he's in the portal, because we're not talking about him. So I think he's going to be fine. Like I said, that speed definitely translates. At the rim finisher, you would absolutely take that at, 6'3". Yep. And, it's not the same player, but like De'Aaron Fox coming out of Kentucky, right? Jump shot was his biggest concern. And now, like, I have to dig deeper into the percentage, but like, it feels like he's automatic for mid-range. And he's definitely improved as a three-point shooter. 2 feet in the paint, find guys, like those things that we see how valuable paint touches are in the NBA. And that kid, Jeremiah Fears, he absolutely gets you paint touches. No screen needed, not even a bunch of dribbles, to be honest with you. Just one move and go. And then as he gets older, like, another example, that Connecticut game in the tournament, like they had a stretch where they just couldn't make a shot. Well, in the NBA, let's say he goes to Brooklyn and, Brooklyn keeps Cam Johnson. Like you kick the Cam Johnson, we just run down the other end of the court because that's going in. The players are going to be better. Again, if he is in Brooklyn, this is no disrespect to the Oklahoma. Like I don't know who his big was, right? So, right. But I know, Nick Claxton, when he's not fighting people, he finishes. So it's like
Sharp's good too. Deron Sharp.
Yeah, exactly. And then Cam Thomas is going to get you 2-3 assists because he's going to shoot it.
Yeah.
So I just, you're not going to hear me say too much negative about Fears. Like I said, I know the jumper needs to improve. I know the at the rim needs to improve, but some of that is decision making. Seeing like, you know what, I got 3 guys on me here. I did my job. I got into the paint. I can find these guys. So I think he's going to find left hand passes, little stuff like that. He does. He's going to be good.
Okay, I feel like you're kind of swaying me on Fears a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you.
Then I did my. So hold on. I got you. I sold you on Fears.
Mm-hmm.
I think I pushed you over the top on Yang.
I mean, I didn't need much on Yang. I was flirting with the line. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Whenever whenever you said you come on here, I'm like, we got to talk about Hansen Yang because I don't even know if his mom likes him as much as you do. So I was excited to have you on the show.
I got Chinese people in my DMs giving me the inside scoop on them. They over here put me on these message boards in China, man. Shout out to Hansen Yang and the family. Did I sway you?
Yeah.
Did I sway you on Drake Powell? You can get back to me.
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
I'll probably bump him up a little bit. I don't know if I got him 4 spots behind. I don't think I got him 4 spots behind Carter, but maybe a little bit.
I'll stand there by myself. Okay.
That's okay. I mean, that's what's great, man. And like, in all honesty, like I think these shows are fun to do because you can have a completely different opinion on somebody than me, and we could talk it out. We can identify what we're both watching the same player and we both see the same things. But what makes the scouting so much fun is like, what do you value like within your philosophy?
Right.
And then how could you see that the strengths getting better and the weaknesses also getting shored up a little bit?
For sure.
There you go. All right. Well, so James, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I don't want to keep you any longer. For all the folks out there, I'm sure they know where to find you, but just humor me for a second. If you could let the people know where they can kind of find and follow your work and what you have going on.
If you don't already follow me, that's fine. I'm at Draft Junkie James on Twitter. I can be found on the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, wherever you get your podcasts at, and on YouTube. And I will be at the draft, so I will be, tweeting. Trying to beat Shane. Oh, I'm not going to tweet pics. Nah, I'm not going to do that. But I'll update the draft community with whatever I get to, talk about. So maybe I get to interview some players. We'll see how that goes.
Well, I can't wait, man. You've been killing it so far. I know you're going to continue to do that for sure, man. But for myself, I had my final written work for this cycle come out, a piece that I called Then and Now, where I compared my first big board to my latest and kind of talked where I got to where I am on some of these guys. That's available, and there's write-ups on my top 40 in there. And then also our draft lottery preview piece on the Spurs came out as well that I was in. And then the Mavs came out today. So I think all of our lottery preview pieces over at NoCeilingsNBA.com are done.
Okay.
For the listeners out there, please go check out the draft guide that we dropped over at NoCeilingsNBA.com. It's been well received. We've been getting a lot of love on that. So everybody who's taking the time to go and look at that, thank y'all so much. But for myself, for No Ceilings, for my awesome guest, James Barlowe, we will catch y'all next time. Much love, y'all.